Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, along with Bob Beckel, Eric Bolling, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. President Trump started his day off swinging against anyone who came in his way. Taking to Twitter, the president lashed out at both Senator John McCain and Senator Richard Blumenthal. Here's the background, and let's start with McCain. The two are feuding over comments the Arizona senator made about the military raid in Yemen. McCain has said he thinks it's a disservice for the White House to characterize that raid as a success because one of our Navy SEALs lost his life. Well, it prompted this response from the president. Senator McCain should not be talking about the success or failure of a mission to the media. Only emboldens the enemy. He's been losing so long, he doesn't know how to win anymore. Just look at the mess our country is in, bogged down in conflict all over the place. Our hero Ryan died on a winning mission, according to General Mattis. Not a failure. Time for the U.S. to get smart and start winning again. Okay, so this was the first thing, batting leadoff this morning, this battle. What do you make of it? Bolling.
Me?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was a lot going on this morning. There's a lot of Twitter activity going on this morning. I'm finding it interesting that all day, if you watch cable news, you switch the channels, look all over the place, what you see is Democrats outraged that Donald Trump was pushing back on Senator Richard Blumenthal's assessment of those two words. The two words were driving the cable news world crazy on the left, saying, how can he say this? How can Donald Trump push back on it? Mm-hmm. Instead of figuring out it's like, fake news. That wasn't fake news. That was fake outrage all day. Because it was a couple of words. Okay, so he said it. You'll get along. And by the way, maybe Blumenthal will now vote in favor of Gorsuch anyway, so that might help him even further. Instead of focusing on what really the most important news of the day today was Donald Trump, and then Sean tweeted, and then Sean Spicer followed up with some very, very interesting news for a lot of people that affects everyone. Tax cuts are coming, 2 to 3 weeks, massive new tax reform. That'll affect every single human being watching TV. That's that. But instead, we're going to worry about a couple of words that Gorsuch may or may not have said.
So let's listen to those exchanges of back and forth now, if you can roll it.
His comments were misrepresented, and what you should do is ask Senator Blumenthal about his Vietnam record that didn't exist after years of saying it did. So ask Senator Blumenthal about his Vietnam record. He misrepresented that just like he misrepresented Judge Gorsuch.
I am simply repeating what Judge Gorsuch said to me, and I hope he will repeat it in even stronger terms, clearly, unequivocally and emphatically saying the President of the United States is absolutely wrong to be attacking the judiciary.
Okay, so Dana, what do you make of the back and forth in terms of
Well, I see these two things as very separate. Like on the comments against Senator McCain, in anytime there's a raid, you will have an after-action report that DOD does, and there will be criticism. There will be even some maybe internal criticism. Often it doesn't play out necessarily like this, but presidents, for as long as we can remember going back, have received criticism from people either on Capitol Hill or civilians who have no idea what's going on national security-wise, who will say something is a failed effort. And presidents have to not focus on that and just focus on the mission and be able to move forward with that. So I would never have said that about Senator McCain. And I think that it was interesting that yesterday, Christina Vanden Heuvel, is that her name? Katrina Vanden Heuvel from The Nation, which is the left of the left, called John McCain an armchair warrior. And I just think we have a senator, you might disagree with him politically, but I don't think that anybody needs to discredit him and what he did in Vietnam for our country. And I think one of the things that Donald Trump might find is that as president, one of the best things that he could do instead of tweeting about it in the morning, if indeed he wants the media to cover the great story about the tax cuts that are coming, is instead of tweeting about it, pick up the phone and call Senator McCain.
Yeah.
Because they will actually be able to get a lot of work done together. They're going to need all 52 votes, and Senator McCain's going to be one of them, and he can be very effective. When it comes to Gorsuch, I've seen two there's two ways to look at it. Do you want me to stop?
Yeah, Dana, I'm going to get in really quick. We just got some big breaking news that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals will, in fact, announce its decision today. So we'll bring that.
So we will not talk about tax cuts at all today, because every day you wake up at the White House and you think, I really want to drive a message today on something, and today it was tax cuts. But you undercut yourself if then you are tweeting about somebody's Senate record or a military record, or you're tweeting about your Supreme Court nominee and you're making comments about another senator. The media will always cover the sugar, and they don't want to eat the vegetables necessarily. But if you keep giving them sugar, they're going to eat it, and that's your fault.
And now there's going to be this big story that everyone will be covering as well, which is important.
I like the vegetables, though.
I know you like vegetables. You're writing a book about the vegetables.
I'm actually trying to talk about the vegetables.
I know, and you're ignoring the sugar.
We're trying.
We're going to get to all of it. Jam-packed show with vegetables. Okay, Greg, so what do you think?
I'm completely confused on what this segment's about now. There's like 16...
Tax
I'm not
cuts
sure.
It's not that.
Let's start over again.
Yes. So,
all right, stupid fight to pick. Like, is this a success or a failure? You're both on the same side. You both want more of these raids. McCain wants more of these raids. Trump wants more of these raids. We gave Obama a lot of crap for overselling the progress against ISIS.
Yep.
So we shouldn't, we don't want President Trump to oversell the progress. We want him to be realistic. But I think for now, raid now, evaluate later. Why do we have to evaluate? It's like not even the first inning. He just got in. You got to go out. You got to kill a lot of these terrorists. And it's a long game. It's a forever game. But the other thing too about this, and what I've learned to accommodate in my own brain, is this really is a long Comedy Central roast. There is no safe space in the Trump administration. He doesn't pick the battles. He lets the battles pick him, and then he goes after them, and it's constant. I have no doubt that him and McCain actually would probably get along if they would just. But instead, what you're watching is you're kind of watching.
Do you understand where they're both coming from, though? Here's the fact. The fact is that the mission was very successful because it was a tremendous amount of intelligence that was gathered. They compared it to the intelligence grab and trove of information they got in Abbottabad.
Wait, no, can I just
that is
finish my point?
That is true.
But that's not the point.
But a life was lost.
Is the discussion is poor? If you have Sean Spicer saying you shouldn't comment on any effort if people died, then I guess you can't comment on the Iraq War, which I believe the candidate who won spent 18 months commenting on the Iraq War.
But also, you spent a lot of time on that.
But also, McCain, if I'm not mistaken, threw the fire that lobbied the first shot in this war. And look, McCain has been doing. Listen, everyone knows I'm no big fan of John McCain. He's a war hero. I get it. I agree with that completely. I just don't like his politics. I don't like his policy. I don't like what he's been over the last 15 years. But he's been taking shots with this whole we need to investigate.
Is he not conservative enough for you?
He's inconsistent, Greg. I mean, there are a lot of things. I don't like his.
Trump has been a Democrat and a Republican.
Pro-amnesty stand on things. I don't like
what about the Gang of Eight
big government.
Today?
I don't like the fact that there's never been a war he hasn't ascribed to or voted for. Just don't like it. But or cap and trade. He's pro cap and trade. There are a lot of things I don't like about John McCain.
Right.
Well, the biggest thing I don't like about him is that he's a senior, well-respected senior senator who's very vocally pushing back on a lot of the Trump initiatives. It's not the time.
So you don't like him because
thank
he disagrees with Trump. Everybody must
I just
agree
gave
with
you
Trump.
3 reasons why I don't. You shouldn't like him either, being a conservative.
Yeah.
Cap and trade, amnesty.
Can everyone agree with me so I can get Bob in?
Yeah, everybody, welcome back to the fore. The point here is a couple of things. One, you don't want to pick a fight with somebody like John McCain through Twitter when you're going to need him on a lot of things. He's going to be helpful to you. Number one,
Bob.
Like what? He could be helpful. He could be harmful if he wants to be. He's a tough guy.
He's going to screw his constituents just to get back at Trump?
Can I finish this?
Sure.
Why in the world is the President of the United States? I've never seen a President of the United States taking on 2 sitting senators at one time. And not just talk about, that he disagrees with them. He says he's a loser. John McCain a loser when it comes to the military? Or Blumenthal? When Blumenthal said that this judge said in his office, there was a White House guy there with him, and he confirmed it. So that's not, Trump is just flat out lying about it, number one, which is something he just does automatically. But, talk about stepping on messages. If tax reform, in fact, is going to happen, which I doubt, but let's assume it does. He steps on that message today. He has a habit of stepping on messages every single day. The good news gets buried under things like this. The guy just should put the Twitter thing away and learn. But he can't because he still thinks he's a CEO of a company and he makes all the decisions. And guess what, Don? You don't.
Well, he does.
Well, it kinda
He's
does.
the president.
It's called commander-in-chief, so he's making the calls unless he gets pushed back by Republican senators.
All right, Danny.
But just remember, we don't work for him. He's not our boss. He works for us.
Correct. And as does McCain, who works for the country.
So you think it was okay for him to take him on like that?
I think there's been a war going back and forth between John McCain and Donald Trump for a year and a half.
Yeah, but should you Twitter
Donald
about
Trump
it?
is not going to sit back and let John McCain undercut a lot of the things that he's trying to do.
And all he did was get a bunch of senators, including Republicans, stand up for John McCain. Number one. Number two,
no one is
Dana's
questioning
exactly
John
right.
McCain's war service or his heroic actions or decision to stay in a concentration camp while others
or
left.
service in this country as a senator.
Donald Trump said Donald Trump said he was a loser. He would continue to loser. Now, this is a guy that's going to lose anyway, Trump. But the point is that he takes on a guy like John McCain, he calls him a loser, and then with Blumenthal, he goes back to his Vietnam War record. If he wants to talk about telling the truth,
nothing
this guy hasn't told the truth about anything.
Than if John McCain decided to retire and we get a real conservative senator in Arizona. That would be. Look, I'm out there. I'm not.
Well, he's done a very good job.
But I just don't understand how is Trump more conservative than McCain?
Well, I think Trump is trying to close the border, not open borders.
But that was the
I think
report
he's against cap and trade.
What about the report today that Donald Trump is open to going forward with the Gang of Eight?
Is he?
I saw that today. That was one of the vegetables I ate. I don't know if it's true, but I mean that's what they reported. That it looks like that he might be open to it, which I think is refreshing. And I don't think you have to be an ideologue. I mean, if it's good policy, let's go for it, whether you're Republican or Democrat, far left,
John
McCain opposed the Bush tax cuts. I mean, what more do you need? Look, I hate to do this, but you want to talk about squishy Republicans or Rhino? There it is, poster. I'm sorry.
So that if you had the Republicans that you like, your brand of Republicans,
be one of those
then Donald Trump would not have to be an authoritarian. I won't use the word. Because he'd have everybody in the Congress going with him. People are not like you. You're a small minority. You and Donald Trump and all this crap. People don't want walls. They don't want to have tax cuts for rich people. They want cap and trade. You better get used to this. You better get used to it.
Do they?
Yes,
well, they should have voted for it. Then they just should have voted for that because they had that. They had that in Hillary Clinton.
You're apologizing for Trump's mismanagement of his job.
I'm not apologizing for Trump at all. What are you talking about? I'm saying John McCain and Trump are having a fight, and I understand why.
Do you think that it was the right thing for Trump to do?
No.
I think you knew that was coming. It's been going on for a year and a half. What? You got to go.
Apparently, they're like, can you not hear me? Hello? I'm going to alert this. An amazing food court is coming up.
That is true.
I mean,
we've been working on this since 6:45 this morning.
A feast like you.
I don't think we're going to have time for it now.
And I like my vegetables too, but with a little dipping sauce ahead. The lone black Republican in the Senate, Tim Scott, reveals some of the racist, despicable feedback he's been getting for supporting our new Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. Where's the outrage from Democrats on that? Next.
This is a Fox News alert. We have gotten word from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that they will make a decision on President Trump's travel ban by the end of business today, Pacific Coast time, so they're 3 hours behind us here on the 5. We will follow the developments and bring you the ruling as soon as it comes, so you don't want to miss that. Meanwhile, former Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions was sworn in today as Attorney General after a long and bitter confirmation battle. Some of the attacks on Sessions reporters were vicious, especially toward Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina. He read some of his hate mail on the floor last night. Listen to this.
You are a disgrace to the black race. You are an Uncle Tom Scott. You're for Sessions. How does a black man turn on his own? I'm a complete horror. A black man who's a racist against black people. A big Uncle Tom piece of fertilizer. I left out all the ones that used the N-word. Just felt like that would not be appropriate. The liberal left that speaks and desires for all of us to be tolerant do not want to be tolerant of anyone that disagrees with where they are coming from.
I just admire him so much. And he went on, Greg, to say that I just wish my friends who call themselves liberals would want tolerance for all Americans, including conservative Americans, and that he's grown used to being called unhelpful to black America, despite the fact that he's one of 10 African Americans ever to serve in the United States Senate, and the first from South Carolina.
But I mean, this is nothing new. If you stray from the left-wing plantation, a black freethinker will be vilified. That's how it works. Nothing scares a left-winger more than a black conservative, because that shakes the foundation of that whole identity bloc coalition they got going. If the black coalition leaves, what happens to the rest? Will they follow suit? The Democratic Party, the Progressive Party right now, are white social justice elitists. They are pampered, petulant, and pasty.
Yes, and not nice to Dr. Ben Carson or Colonel West.
Yeah.
Listen, this is Twitter we're talking about.
I know.
If you read my Twitter, at the end of the day,
maybe we should add that.
This is small stuff. And the fact is, there's some passionate people on this issue, because, including me, about Sessions. I did not send him a tweet on whatever it's called. But I think that it's not surprising he would get that. He didn't read probably the hundreds he got, which were favorable, number one. And number two, I think the guy he's sitting there complaining about this. What does he expect in a high voltage situation like Jeff Sessions? Why does he think he's not going to get? And also, he says it represents the left. It does not represent the left. Those people who send that kind of stuff,
Bob, they're the ones sending it.
Bob, let me ask you,
how do you know?
I want to see if Kimberly or Eric thinks that this represents the left. Here's Senator Schumer about the Sessions confirmation.
When Jeff Sessions was passed, it turned my stomach. He's probably, almost certainly, the most anti-immigrant senator of the 100. Civil rights and voting rights. He's probably one of the top 3 or 4 against these sacred rights, civil rights and voting rights. He doesn't belong there.
Well, it's pretty strong to say turned his stomach.
Yeah, turned his stomach. I mean, his talking points turned my stomach, and his looking down and not being a good communicator turns my stomach. We're not going there. Yeah. So here's the deal. I think that this is bad politics. I feel like Chuck Schumer is behaving in a way that he hasn't in the past, and is now taking on this role politically because it is expedient. And for him to say that about Sessions, who is widely admired by his colleagues and someone who was a civil rights champion, it's really, to me, unbecoming that he's making these comments.
You said Jeff Sessions was a civil rights hero?
Did I stutter?
Did you stutter? Did you? I mean, that's the most crazy thing I think I've ever heard.
He put a KKK leader to death.
He also got voted down by the Senate when he wanted to be a federal judge.
That was more than Al Sharpton ever did.
Listen, well, it's yeah.
He put a guy to death.
Apples and oranges.
What do you make of the left, Eric, going after these senators, their fellow senators?
Here's what I think. Time Magazine's cover this week is Senator Schumer standing right there, and the type says, "Do they matter anymore?" And this is what's going on. The Democrats, right. Do the Democrats matter anymore? So they see that, and they think, we have to matter, right? And so the rhetoric's it's going to be more hyperbole, the rhetoric's going to be ratcheted up, and they're going to make crazier and crazier comments, more, I don't know, provocative comments, just so that they can stay relevant and stay on TV until they figure out what went wrong. And the problem is they're wasting so much time coming up with hot lines like that, turns my stomach about Sessions, instead of figuring out what went wrong.
As if the Republicans did not Obama every single day. Are you kidding me? Those right-wing slobs would never let him go.
Cory Booker stood up and trashed Senator Sessions.
Fine. Everything he said agreed with, except that I threw up.
3 weeks after he co-sponsored a bill with Senator Sessions.
You see that? That's called hypocrisy.
It's politics in D.C.
Hypocrisy.
It's called a swamp.
They lack character and integrity to do that. So don't.
And how about all the right-wing nuts that said these things about Obama?
Really? Who?
Who? Tafitz? Matter of fact, I could. Sessions was enough. All I got to do is full tape. They called him everything except
for a word. They called for Benghazi investigation.
No.
They never said he turned their stomach.
They never said anything like that.
Actually, we don't have it, or to play right now, but Marco Rubio gave a speech about civility and comity on the Senate floor, which I think
it's terrible
to everybody. No, it's very good. And it's not even a reading assignment. It's a viewing assignment. So everybody can participate.
Maybe we should view it.
There's a big divide here in America over President Trump's travel ban, but there seems to be a great deal of support for it over in Europe, a continent with a very serious migration and terror crisis on its hands. Greg has more on that next.
According to a large poll in 10 European countries, most support a halt in immigration from Muslim countries. I guess Islamic terror isn't simply the concern of Trump voters, but citizens in Poland, Germany, the UK, crossing borders and political lines. I guess that makes them all deplorable. Now, majority opinion doesn't make the opinion right. Millions still prefer Justin Bieber over the Ramones, and that's wrong. Still, the poll makes sense. When massacres increase along with rising levels of migration, Liberal politicians must realize their role in this. When you call people bigoted for worrying about their own safety, you don't persuade, you inflame. Would it hurt to discuss small steps first, like a temporary halt, to simply check things out? That's common sense. But today, common sense is seen as mean, and safety is always trumped by sentiment. So who suffers? Believe it or not, the innocent migrant. Migration is not a right, but a compassionate act that those lucky enough to be born here should welcome. But by not admitting that the fusion of terror, technology, and infiltration has changed immigration forever, and then not prioritizing the safety of its citizens, our world leaders screwed the migrants over. Their PC paralysis due to Islamophobia prevented them from accepting that bad eggs exist. So now we must temporarily treat everything as rotten, a tragedy that flowed from the top, not the bottom. Indeed, Dana. So is everybody in this poll a racist?
That was like a word salad. It was teetering on the edge of
what?
Being verbose.
Verbose, really?
But it was
I try to keep it about at 1:17. 1 minute, 17 seconds.
Do you?
Yeah, that's my
true?
rule. Yes, I figured that's when everybody stops listening.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, 1:18.
Can you back that up by science?
I have stats. I have stats.
I listen all the way through.
Thank you.
We all listen because he times it.
I get the first 30 seconds down pretty well.
So after we've made fun of my monologue,
Frontal lobe king.
Any thoughts, Eric? Any thoughts on this poll?
So yeah, the poll. It's probably a small poll. Not too many people.
10,000.
10,000. Wow. So there is a lot of people. Here's what strikes me: Austria-Hungary, 65% agreed with the comment that yes, there should be some sort of temporary ban or some sort of revetting of people coming from these certain countries.
Right.
Not religions, these certain countries, as the Trump temporary ban would be. France, 61%. Nice, ring a bell. Belgium, 64%. Terrorists in the Belgium
they got
airport,
problems.
ring a bell. If you don't listen to them, then there's no reason to even have this discussion anymore. People who have been at the center of this, who've had open borders, and now experiencing terrorism.
But
that should be all you need to hear.
It's not a surprising poll. Each one of these countries have suffered because they never had an immigration policy that was strict, as we have had since 9/11, and they've allowed people to come in. If you've been to London and look at the Muslim community around London or in Paris, of course they're going to be for that. Right now, these people have suffered terribly because of their own mistakes, their own political.
And that's what they're trying to stop from happening.
Yeah, that's the
point.
point.
Don't make the mistakes of Europe.
And part of the problem is that that the assimilation of years past has not continued with the Muslim populations. And one of the problems is that the European governments, having been so leftist, had made it very comfortable for them to not have to assimilate.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you see some measures where you're trying to, again, take things away and say maybe you won't get your council house, or you won't get necessarily these benefits, or you won't be able to bring over additional family. Then now they're trying to do that, and that's why you see some of the politics in Europe changing as well, with people challenging the status quo and possibly winning elections.
These are basically people, Kimberly, are saying in this poll, we wish we had the opportunity you have to actually fix this. We don't anymore.
Yeah, and so what does that tell you? I mean, this is part of the larger context you saw with Brexit and wanting to be able to be responsible and own your own decisions as it relates to economy, as it relates to national security. And just to touch on the comments by the Pope, I mean, one of the most highly protected and secured places in the world is the Vatican.
Vatican, right.
Right?
Remember when he brought those 9 Syrians back?
They got a wall. And they got a wall plus. Like, they've got a whole situation there. I don't think that it's unreasonable, and I'm not sure. The Pope has to understand, like, we have an obligation to protect the citizens of the United States, people that come here, people that live here. That's the job and obligation of the President of the United States, and it is one of the most serious jobs.
You think that the Pope could support Donald Trump's suggestion of safe spaces at the source, so that you solve the problem there, so that people don't have to become refugees?
By the way, we have to.
I think you would like that, Dana.
The Pope was criticizing Trump, but saying he wasn't.
Humanitarian.
He said, like, we should be building bridges, not walls.
So he's like, don't tweet me.
Yeah, exactly. Please leave me alone. He said it wasn't a personal attack, but he was basically targeting Trump, I think. Right?
I don't want to know where you get enough cement to put walls up through all those countries. I guess you could do it, right? You could do.
Or you could just, you know what else you could do?
What's that?
You could just enhance your vetting process and people trying to get into.
Well, that's what we've been doing for a long time, which is why we will never be like they are.
That's
we will
Trump
never
plan.
have that many people.
That was the Trump plan that you said was such a horrible, awful idea.
First of all, go back to George Bush, and the vetting process is very tough, very tough. And and we're not going to have allow immigrants to come in without any questions. We don't do that in this country, and we're not going to do it. And since 9/11, we're particularly not going to do it.
It's amazing how much tougher Muslim countries are on other Muslims.
Right.
You know that? I mean,
Right.
it's like we're finally catching up to everybody else.
So, Bob, you're speaking specifically about the vetting process in this country. What General Kelly and others have said, and we talked about this yesterday, Dana, is the countries that they are objecting to are failed states that lack the adequate means to properly vet people there, to authenticate identity, past, background, all of it. So we cannot rely on those countries. And when you objected to Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, they are actually on record, documented, well documented, that they do engage in proper vetting there, which is why they were not added to that list, even though they are Muslim countries.
We might have to add Venezuela. Did you see that they are basically? It looks like they gave passports to terrorist organizations.
Yes.
Well, it's
add Venezuela to the list.
But look at the state of the government there, right?
Of passports may have been stolen and given to potential terrorists.
Also, Canada. They're coming from Canada.
Look, I'll bet you.
Well, Sarah
how
Palin
many people
said
you think
we
are
can
carrying Yemenese passports are getting into this country?
Yeah. All right.
Okay, Yemen is really a hotbed of terrorism. It's like the Star Wars bar scene for radical Islamic jihadists.
That's wrong. I was in that bar scene, and I didn't
Bob,
see anybody
it's
like
What
that.
about the
Yemen.
raid that we just did? I know. Great.
We got to
The raid
go.
we just did, you said we got a lot of intelligence out of
Yes,
it.
we did.
Didn't. We lost
Yes,
a guy, and it was
okay.
failed.
We gotta
All
go.
The
that
military's
we
the one
lost
leaked-
Ryan
Wait, you
Oates
can't do a
and God
callback
bless
to an
him.
early segment.
That's what he does.
Why?
All right. Well, I guess you could. All right. It's
Frontal
5.
lobe.
You can do whatever you want, except meet our time cues.
Not a real show.
I know. All right. Up next, am I on the air?
Yes.
Okay. The Trump administration is under fire for throwing a fit after retailers like Nordstrom dropped Ivanka Trump's fashion line. We will discuss this earth-shaking news next.
Welcome back. You might have heard about the retailers who've been dropping Ivanka Trump's fashion line from their stores. One of them, Nordstrom. Here's Mr. Trump's response to that. My daughter, quote, my daughter Ivanka has been treated so unfairly by Nordstrom. She's a great person, always pushing me to do the right thing. Terrible. Now, as Counselor Kellyanne Conway also voiced her dismay earlier today.
I do find it ironic that you've got some executives all over the internet bragging about what they've done to her and her line, and yet they're using the most prominent woman in Donald Trump's most prominent. She's his daughter, and they're using her, who's been a champion for women empowerment, women in the workplace, to get to him. So I think people can see through that. Go buy Ivanka's stuff is what I would tell you. I'm gonna get. I hate shopping. I'm gonna go get some on myself today.
And some are now accusing Conway of crossing an ethical line by plugging Ivanka's brand. Republican Jason Chaffetz said he wants the Office of Government Ethics to review her comments. The White House today, however, said Conway has been counseled on the subject and that the president, quote, absolutely continues to support her despite the outrage. I'm going to start with you, Kimberly.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was an Associated Press newswire.
She makes a comment, I love the brand. And okay, so
well, here's the bottom line. She was asked a question about this situation specifically, which she then addressed and answered and made sort of off-the-cuff comment to say, oh, listen, support her, etc. So now they've told her, okay, be careful in case this comes off the wrong way, it's construed improperly. That's certainly not what Kellyanne Conway meant or intended to do. She was simply answering questions that were posed to her during Fox and Friends.
Dana, on a scale of 1 to 10, how big is this?
Not very big at all. I do think that he was expressing fatherly pride in his daughter. He's grateful to Kellyanne Conway for being aggressive in her defense. However, I do think that the government should not be picking winners and losers. It's one thing to do it when you are not a government official, but now as president, I do think that that is different. And, hands off, let the market decide. And the other thing is, inadvertently, and even though she was just answering the question, it takes away from the message of the day, which is the big tax cut proposal that they want to have put forward.
Greg, do you want to talk about this, or do you want to talk about J.W. Nordstrom's decision to pull Ivanka's brand now?
Sure, I can do it. Whatever you want.
Shame on Nordstrom.
Do you think it was strictly tied to business or politics?
I think that's the problem, is that I go with Clinton Cash author Peter Schweizer, who said this is a problem. When you're trying to boost a business for a family member, that's gross, and maybe Trump should divest, and this is the problem that you get. We spent a whole year going off on the Clinton Foundation about using an office for money. We were yelling about that, so we're kind of being hypocrites here if we don't do this. However,
what are you specifically mad at?
I'm not mad at
No,
anything.
I want to. No, I
don't
want to
choose
understand.
these segments, Kimberly.
No, I want to.
could care
I didn't
less.
know that.
Honestly, I don't give.
All right, yeah.
Anyway, but my point is this: what is Nordstrom supposed to do if their business decisions are predicated on the fear of angering a dad president? No business. That's again. He works for Nordstrom's. Nordstrom's doesn't work for Trump. Fox News doesn't work for Trump. Everybody must be reminded of that.
All right, Bob, your thoughts on either the timing of Nordstrom's pulling Ivanka Trump's brand or Kellyanne getting a lot of backlash for an off-the-cuff comment?
Well, I mean, I agree that she was asked the question, and she answered it. She didn't answer the way she should have, but she answered it, and I think it was all right. Kafis is going to find out that this is not a big deal. But as far as Nordstrom's concerned, the implication here is that it's all political, when in fact, Nordstrom can't sell the stuff. And so they dropped 15,000, as I read today, 15,000 different products every year that don't sell. And her stuff is not selling. Now, maybe because her name is Trump and it's on it, I don't know what it is. But it was a business decision, clearly. And, I mean, look, if it was selling a lot of stuff, they'd keep her name on it.
Yep.
Eric, they did drop my Gutfeld onesies. Because they claimed they weren't selling.
Well, I mean, they're so small. Nobody could fit in them. I mean, even small boys were like, wow, I can't get my legs in.
By the way, I love Nordstrom's.
Babies love them.
Nordstrom's is such a great store. Did you ever go? The Hillsdale Mall in San Francisco. They have everything. And the return policy is incredible. You used to be able to return.
When you bring it back 6 months later, Greg, the way
without a
you
receipt. You could return without a receipt.
You know, we're going to put you in front of the
why their
ethics group
business
here,
is
okay, for promoting Nordstrom's like that?
And they have restaurants. They have nice little restaurants. It was a great. It was Nordstrom's.
There's none in New York.
I know. I went to the Hillsdale Mall and the one in Stanford.
See, and Geraldo said the reason why he's calling Nordstrom's hypocrites is the one in New York was using the Ivanka brand as part of their flagship retail space. Yeah. Like, hey, draw people in, use her, but then drop her.
Publicity.
So, but I can't confirm that.
See how
I can't confirm.
It's from Geraldo.
It's from Geraldo, who's outside right
There he is.
All right, coming up, Matt Drudge isn't happy with the Republican Party right now, and Bob is loving it. Here, Bob actually paid tribute to Matt Drudge in the Drudge Report. Next.
Usually Matt Drudge and I don't see eye to eye. There's a first time for everything. However, the conservative founder of the Drudge Report has been tearing apart Republicans on Twitter for not delivering on promises made during the campaign. Here's one of the tweets. The Republican Party should be sued for fraud. No discussion of tax cuts now, just lots of crazy back-to-basics guys. My man, you're spot on. The GOP is a mess. Let me just say this. The tax cut thing, he must have done that before because they have talked about that. We'll see what they produce. You know, Drudge is saying something I think is right. This White House is not doing much of anything.
Are you?
Oh, God.
Really? I think he's complaining about House. I think he's talking about Congress.
Yeah, you're pointing the finger in the wrong direction. Not at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. He's down the road, down to the Russell Rotunda. I think that's where he's
That's
pointing.
where he's saying. Your geolocator's a little bit off. Drinking a cup of crazy.
The Republicans that are being that are being obstructionists. That's where his.
Do you want to?
That's not what he said. He said on the campaign trail.
Said GOP.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick a different topic for this?
Not at all. Well, we could have said Ivanka Trump's shoes are made in China, but her father didn't say anything about that.
They are beautiful.
So I think you're wrong. You don't think he was referring to Trump?
No, he wasn't. He's been pro-Trump.
But the thing is that it's funny because, like, even this morning after that ran, and Donald Trump was the one. President Trump was the one who said.
That's
big
true.
tax cuts are coming. So I think that he was maybe giving a little cover to his Republican colleagues on Capitol Hill.
That Drudge pulls the strings. He runs everything.
Bob, the producer said they did tell you. Because I'm like, why didn't let Bob know? Because, like, look what just happened.
They told me what?
That it was the GOP.
The producers told me that?
Correct.
I think that's wrong. The producers
in another
never tell me that.
episode of Where is my frontal lobe?
Wait. Can we show the greatest file that has never been opened?
Open that, Bob.
Bob's research.
I read that thing from top to bottom.
Bob's research. Is that from 2011?
This kind of assault.
Here's what you do.
This is against the human relations, human intelligence things. You guys are assaulting me. I just assaulted to stop it. Okay, excuse me. I won't say anything. All right, let's go back to Ivanka's shoes.
You said they were made in China.
When you say that the promises you make on the campaign trail, he has got to be talking about Trump.
But wait a second.
Oh, my God.
To your point, Ivanka's shoes are, everybody loves Ivanka's shoes, but they're made in China, right?
Okay, well, fine.
Yeah, there you
Great.
go.
Okay.
But it's good.
Okay, but her shoes are great, the dresses, I mean, you know, I bought one for my baby.
Are you saying that the Chinese make better shoes than we do?
I didn't say that. I mean, I wear French shoes, too.
All right, well, you want to go back to the topic? Okay.
And
I wear wooden shoes.
All right,
Jimmy Choo.
I think that, here's the thing. I'll tell you on the,
Janie, go ahead.
so,
made in Italy.
there is
Save it.
impatience by some people that want the Republicans to move forward quickly with the legislative package on all of the things that they had promised, including the tax cuts. They also have to move forward with Obamacare and the infrastructure bill. So all of those things, you have to figure out how to sequence them and how you're going to pay for them. And I do think on the tax thing, explaining the border adjustment tax is really difficult. The corporate tax, you could probably figure out how to do that pretty easily. But I'm intrigued by what President Trump said this morning, that there's a big tax cut coming.
Me too.
To me, I think that's not for corporations. I'm expecting that to be something big and bold for people in the heartland and the middle class that voted for him.
And he said it was going to be massive tax reform, and he also pointed back to the 1980s. In other words, that style tax reform.
He also said next week we're going to have Obamacare, a fix for Obamacare. That was 2 weeks ago. But listen, the point here is, if you don't think that this refers just to the Republican Party, this is the head of the Republican Party.
At some point, Bob, I think that you'll be right that there will be a connection. But today, I do think that what the complaint is about House and Senate Republicans, who some people on the right think they have not done enough, that they should have been able already to have an Obamacare repeal bill at President Trump's desk, and that they're looking for bigger tax reform than they've got.
Why is everybody always picking on me? I got to go.
No.
One more thing is up next.
Doesn't matter what.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Sorry.
It's time now for one more thing. Kimberly, you're up first. Today is National
I forgot.
Let me tell you something, little one with a fancy for onesies. You want a piece of this, don't
Yes,
ya?
I do.
Don't ya? All right.
you.
So this is National Pizza Day, right? And apparently the Department of Agriculture is spending money doing studies on pizza, and they have come to the conclusion that, yeah, people eat it. In fact, wow, 15% of men, 11% of women.
That's all? 15%?
They said to me today,
That's nothing.
Hey, G,
Wait.
do you want plain or, I'm like,
Way
right
higher
now,
than that.
what?
Only
gotta be way higher
pepperoni,
than
Bobby.
that.
Only 15% of men.
Hold on. 1 in 8 Americans, 13% of the population consume pizza on any given day. Hold on.
Every
For all
any given day.
individuals,
So
a
any given
higher
day, there's
percentage
15%
of
the
males,
population eating pizza.
15% than females, 11%, you and me, Lisa Simpson, consume pizza on any given day. Children, obviously, eat a lot of pizza. You probably shouldn't also talk and eat pizza with your mouth open. I apologize.
It's charming.
It's delicious. All right. Oh, thank you, Little Italy. But we paid for it, don't worry. All right.
Okay.
Bob.
For those of you who watched the Super Bowl, many of you did, Lady Gaga had a terrific performance. But if you remember the beginning of that performance, she talked about, I'm sorry, my earpiece keeps falling out. She sang the song "This Land Is Your Land," which was a Woody Guthrie song written decades ago. And it was, in fact, an anti-American song. So a lot of you probably thought this was something that was just terrific and it was pro-American. You know what? It's a communist song.
I used to sing that in elementary school all the time. That was the start of the indoctrination.
It's my land. It is not your land.
So isn't that the song
Don't
that
waste
Nancy
that
Pelosi
pizza
was
that-
singing
yeah.
when the microphone wasn't working? She's a communist.
Well, she is.
I love it. He's admitting it.
Wait, did you know the top 4 pizzeria chains? Pizza Hut, Domino's, Little Caesars, and Papa John's.
All right, I'll blow through this very, very quickly so we have time for Dana's. All right, race and politics,
worry,
a
mine's not that
history
great.
lesson. Very quickly, 1854, the Republican Party was formed entirely against opposing slavery, okay? Democrats are called Dixiecrats, Southern Democrats. They protected slavery in all territories. That was their plan. KKK was founded by a Southern Democrat,
Eat it, Bob.
General Nathan Bedford Forrest. He actually spoke at the 1868 Democrat National Convention. And finally, this one at the bottom. Republicans passed the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. 13th abolished slavery. 14th offered citizenship to all races. And the 15th gave voting rights to all races. So you want to talk about pro-black party, pro-African American party, it's been the Republican Party.
That's a very
Ted
good
Cruz was
history,
sitting
and
on
you're
that.
right about that, except when you pass the big ones, the Voting Rights and the Housing Act, it was more Democrats and Republicans.
Okay, it's
Dana.
my one more thing.
Okay, so Valentine's Day just around the corner. I'm sure everybody's getting ready. You might want to buy a Greg onesie for your loved one. But Valentine's Day isn't just for us. It's for zoo animals, too. Check this out. In Detroit, they figured out a way to give heart-shaped piñatas to wolves, ice treats with carrots and apples to polar bears. Even camels got some, deer. Penguins got special rocks that were painted for them. And the penguin, do you know that they mate for life? So it's like a really good Valentine's Day type story. I told you it was a boring one more thing.
Set your DVR so you never miss an episode of the 5 Runny Pizza. That's it for our special report next.